Oregon has apparently become the first state where instead of having to claim actual physical illness, you can take a mental health day for apparently any reason.
That's right. And Oregon has one of the highest suicide rates in the country, actually 40% higher than the national average. And it was teenagers who actually pushed this bill. They said that they were influenced by a youth-led movement that followed last year's Parkland, Florida school shooting. So yeah, just what you said, there are a lot of days where people feel bad mentally, whether they have, mental health problems. I don't know what the specifics are, if it just is like you're having a really bad day or if you have to provide a doctor's note. But the point was people shouldn't have to go to school on days like this. And they're saying, if you can stay home because you have a physical ailment, this is just as, quote, bad. But the other reason that they think it's important is that a lot of people don't talk about this stuff. So
right.
People would take these days off, but they would make up an excuse about it. They would pretend something else was wrong. And so this is a way for people to talk about it, which is why I started with that suicide rate. A lot of people don't talk about their depression, or they don't talk about the fact that they're really struggling or that they're suicidal. And so the idea of this is also to help people understand that it's okay to say it out loud. And if we take away that stigma, then maybe people will get help sooner and there won't be as many long-term problems.
They specifically didn't want kids to have to lie.
I think that this should extend to work life as well. And I'm sure companies are okay with this in some cases. But here at work, we get, I think, 10 days, sick days a year. And I've definitely had days where I don't feel like I'm going to do a good job, whether it's because in the past I've had a really bad breakup or I'm having a problem in my family. Mm-hmm. Everybody's had that where you're just not going to be able to concentrate and it's just going to make it worse. And, it's kind of built into our society, even with sick days. How many people come in when they have a cold or when they have the flu? It's the same thing. Like if you stayed home, you would get better quicker.
I think my generation's approach to that would be, if you're going to spread an infection, obviously stay home. If you are not feeling up to the job but are physically able to do it, my tendency would be to just tough it out.
Yes. And that's why I think a story like this, a lot of people listening are going, oh, these little snowflakes, let's coddle them. But the story specifically says, don't call it coddling. There are high suicide rates. People need to talk about what's going on in their lives and to admit that they have depression. And I think in my generation, we're pretty good about that. I find that people have told me a lot of their stories. I tell people when I'm feeling really bad, if I'm feeling depressed, I always talk about the fact that I go to therapy. And it makes me feel better because when you talk about it, you realize you're not the only one. Like usually when you say something, you find out the person you're talking to has had a similar experience or someone in their life has.
I would just feel it's really none of anybody else's business why I would take a day off.
Yeah.
Why can't I just say I need to stay out today? But so tell me, you feel better about talking about your therapy?
Oh, yeah.
So talking about your therapy is part of your therapy?
I think it is. Yeah, for sure. Because secretly going to therapy and pretending everything is okay is really exhausting, especially the latter. I mean,
you don't think people judge you?
No. If somebody is going to judge me for going to therapy, then I really don't care, because if you're doing something to try to help yourself and I'm being judged for that, then it's obviously on the other person. But I mean, in your generation, do people, do they talk about the fact they go to therapy?
You wouldn't even talk about divorce. I mean, if somebody got divorced, I can remember how it was, it would be sort of whispered. Well, somebody's coming over to the house for cocktails. Well, they got divorced. It was that kind of thing. It was probably not rare, but rarely talked about.
There's a fine line between talking about your problems and just being kind of like someone who bums everybody out, because, sometimes people say, how are you? And you just go, oh, I'm fine. And in your head, you're going, oh, I had the worst day, or I just had this fight with somebody, and you just don't say it. But sometimes, just say, that's what kind of deepens friendships, I find.